After the village watermelons ripened, I ran myself ragged finding buyers. Instead, the villagers accused me of taking dirty money. The price he negotiated with produce buyers was 3 cents higher than what he quoted the villagers. For every pound of watermelon, Ethan Miller pockets 3 cents. How much land does this village have? How many watermelons do we grow? Over a full year. Over a full year. Just from that exploitative profit, Ethan Miller takes hundreds of thousands, and you still treat him like a benefactor. You even call him Oakridge's great hope. You've all been fooled. Since I am part of Oakridge Village, I have a duty to answer to our neighbors. When I see someone making dirty money with no conscience, I have to expose it. I have to stand against it. I will protect the villagers' interests. I won't let Ethan Miller take advantage of everyone. Looking at the villagers, their faces burning with envy, I laughed. So I owed you all, did I? Running around for you. And I was not allowed to earn a single cent. Fine. Then I won't sell these watermelons. Let's see which of you can sell them. Just after the May holiday weekend, I got busy too. Every day, I left early and came home late, looking for clients, contacting wholesalers, and finding sales channels for the whole village crop. As the only watermelon broker in the village, all of Oakridge's watermelons were sold with my help, and my rate was fair. I only kept 3 cents per pound whenever I advanced money to villagers. I gave them cash on the spot. Watermelons are not that easy to sell. Every year, when the crop was about to hit the market, I had to run all over the place. That day, I had not even gotten out of bed when Dad's phone call woke me early that morning. Ethan, come home, quick. Something's happened. I threw on my clothes, not even stopping to wash my face, and drove straight back. I sped the whole way, and finally made it there before noon. My house was packed with people, as usual. By then, I was used to scenes like that, but because of Dad's call, I had no mind for any of it. I parked the car and ran inside. Mom and Dad were sitting in the house. Neighbors stood packed all around them. They looked as if they had done something wrong, their heads hanging low. Dad. What happened? I hurried over and asked. Dad looked up at me, his lips moving, but no words came out. He sighed and lowered his head again. Ethan, tell me the truth. Did you take dirty money from everyone? Mayor Whitaker walked over and asked. It sounded like an interrogation. Dirty money. That question left me baffled. When had I ever cheated the villagers? Mayor, who told you I took dirty money? You need proof before saying things like that. After a stunned moment, I came to my senses and asked Mayor Whitaker. Already annoyed, Sophie said it. She said that when you were selling watermelons, she saw you negotiate a higher price with the produce buyers than the price you quoted the villagers. Mayor Whitaker suddenly raised his hand and pointed at my nose, as if he were listing a criminal's charges. I frowned. Sophie Whitaker was Mayor Whitaker's daughter, and the second college graduate to come out of the village. She had only gone to an ordinary small, private junior college, yet in Oakridge Village, where most people had only a grade school education. She always fancied herself some great intellectual. After Sophie graduated last year, she came back to the village. She claimed outside jobs were beneath her, and said she was applying for a government job. But nearly a year had passed, and she still had not passed a thing. Privately, the villagers said Sophie could not find work in the city, and only came home because she could not make it there. After all, as the village's first college graduate, I'd gotten into a top-tier university back then. Even I struggled hard to find a job after graduation. Mayor Whitaker seemed intent on grooming his daughter as his successor. This year, he asked me to take Sophie along, while I found buyers for the village crop. He said she should follow me and see how the business worked. But that little girl had no patience. Yesterday, she came with me to a few supermarkets. By afternoon, she made an excuse and left. I thought she really had something important to handle, but the moment I heard Mayor Whitaker say that, I understood. The little tattletale had run back to tell on me. Where is Sophie? Have her come out and say it to my face. She had the nerve to tattle, but not the guts to face me. A sudden surge of anger shot through me. I looked around and did not see Sophie anywhere. So I raised my voice and shouted. That little girl had no conscience at all. Never mind that I had sold her family's watermelons for years. The year she got into college, Mayor Whitaker could not even scrape together her tuition. I was the one who gave him $10,000. These past 2 days, in the state capitol with me, I treated her to good food and drinks the whole time. And this was how she repaid me. Ethan Miller. What are you yelling for? Sophie walked in from outside and glared at me. After saying that, she turned around to face the neighbors inside and outside the house. Like the mayor, she stretched out her finger and pointed at me, jabbing it again and again. Neighbors, it is him. Ethan Miller. He has lost all conscience. He is taking everyone's hard-earned money. Yesterday, when Ethan negotiated prices with several supermarkets in the state capitol, I was standing right beside him. The price he agreed on with the produce buyers was 3 cents higher than what he quoted the villagers. For every pound of watermelon, Ethan Miller pockets 3 cents. Think about how much land the whole village has. Think about how many watermelons we grow over a single year, just from this dirty money alone. Ethan Miller takes hundreds of thousands. I want to ask you, neighbors, which of your families works so hard growing watermelons and makes hundreds of thousands a year? That money should have belonged to all of us. Ethan Miller swallowed it all without a conscience, and you still treat him like a benefactor. You still see him as the village's hope. You have all been fooled. Since I, Sophie Whitaker, am part of Oakridge Village, I have a duty to answer to all of you. When I discover this kind of shameless, dirty money, I have to expose it. I have to oppose it. I will defend the villagers' interests. I will not let Ethan Miller take advantage of everyone. Sophie, filled with righteous fury, listed my so-called crimes to the villagers. She made her declaration with stirring passion. She even had the air of a noble crusader. Not bad. She really was a college graduate. At least she knew addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. She could roughly calculate how much money I made each year. So, that is the crime you are charging me with. I looked at Sophie, almost speechless. It was only 3 cents. Was that really worth getting so worked up over? From the way she came at me, so fiercely, anyone who did not know better would think I had desecrated her family grave. Is that not enough to convict you? We are talking about hundreds of thousands. That is money the villagers earned with every shovel of dirt and every drop of water, bending their backs under the blazing sun. What gives you the right to just talk and pocket the villagers' hard-earned money? I cannot stand people like you, always gaming the system, and acting like taking advantage of others is some kind of talent. Well, that was rich. I had never seen this girl accomplish anything real, but she sure knew how to stir up trouble. With just a few words, she shoved me to the opposite side of the villagers. At first I thought Sophie was just young and hot-headed. I thought she was simply arrogant enough to believe my sales margin was unfair. Maybe she wanted to defend whatever justice she imagined in her heart. But now, looking at it, this girl was not just stupid. She was vicious. She had probably watched me sell watermelons for the village over the years, and seen my reputation among the villagers grow higher and higher. She must have worried I would threaten her father's position as mayor. So she seized this chance to make trouble. Mayor Whitaker had spent his whole life hauling watermelons from street to street. There was no way he did not understand that sales margins were perfectly normal. I understand now. So you are planning to turn against me. What about the rest of you? Do you all think I, Ethan Miller, should not earn those 3 cents either? I did not bother arguing with Sophie. Instead, I looked around at the villagers. I thought they could not be so unreasonable as to begrudge me even those 3 cents. After all, they had made plenty of money because of me over the years. Ethan, let your uncle say something, and don't take it the wrong way. You really should not have taken that money. 3 cents is not much, but it still came from the villagers' hard labor. 3 cents on every pound. 10 pounds makes 30 cents. 100 pounds makes $3. What about an acre? What about one household? The whole village has over 200 households. Can you really take that money without feeling guilty? Uncle Sam could not wait to speak up. He seemed to have forgotten. He was the first one who came to my dad back then, begging me to help sell his watermelons. Ethan, you help the villagers sell their watermelons. Everyone appreciates that. But if you take money for it, is that not taking advantage of the village? Uncle Quinn chimed in too. That's right, Ethan. What you did here was not right. We are all neighbors here. How could you do business like that? And to think your auntie praised you for having a conscience. She said you cared about Oakridge Village. Is this how you repay the villagers' trust? If it were not for Mayor Whitaker's daughter, we would still be kept in the dark. We were being taken advantage of, while still calling you a good man. The villagers all talked over one another, and every voice was accusing me. My heart went cold in an instant. The people in that room had known my family for generations. I thought ties built over several generations had to count for something. But those ties still could not stand against profit. I had been naive enough to think they had some conscience. I thought a few words of troublemaking from Sophie would not make them haggle with me over 3 cents. Yes, I earned those 3 cents. But who sold the watermelons? Only because I helped sell their watermelons. Could they earn anything from each pound? From a few dimes to a few dollars. Was 3 cents? But if I had not helped them sell, they would not have gotten a single cent. They could only have watched the watermelons rot in the fields. But now? They believed I had taken advantage of them, that I had violated their interests, that I had no conscience, that I had wronged them. Them. What gave them the right? Had they forgotten how worried they were back then, when their watermelons would not sell? Had they forgotten that after the melons finally sold, the moment they got the money, how happy their smiles were? Who helped them climb out of those hard days? Who turned the watermelons that should have rotted in the fields into cash? It was me, Ethan Miller. Give people an inch, and they'll demand a mile. Now I had seen it for myself. I understand what everyone means now. You all think I should not have taken those 3 cents, right? Only after the villagers had finished scolding me. Did I finally ask? The villagers all nodded, as if it were obvious. I glanced at Sophie. She was actually smiling. A smug, triumphant smile. Clearly, she was very pleased with the villagers' attitude. But, let me tell you all something. That money was mine to take. And I had every right to take it. Why? Because I was the one who sold everyone's watermelons. Do you know How I sold them? I entertained buyers. I drank with them. I gave gifts. I begged every buyer I could find to take Oakridge Village's watermelons. You think treating buyers is free? Back when I first sold watermelons for the village, do you know how much money I sank into it? 130,000. Other than my parents. Did any of you give me even 1 cent? I have been selling these watermelons for years, and I sold them all for you. There are plenty of watermelons on the market. Why should anyone buy ours? Was it not because I talked them into it? Because I begged them. My family's melons had no trouble finding buyers. Yet I still worked myself to the bone, helping all of you sell yours. And for what? A few polite words from you. Put your hands on your hearts and tell me, without me, Ethan Miller, could your watermelons have sold it all? Those 3 cents. Did I not deserve them? I looked at every villager in the room and asked, loudly. The first year I sold watermelons for the village. I worked myself ragged for over a month, before I finally helped the villagers sell their crop. Afterward, I ran the numbers. And even I was stunned. The villagers all made money from their watermelons. I did not get a single cent in profit. Instead, I burned through over $100,000 of my own savings. A sale takes a willing buyer and seller. Just because I wanted to sell did not mean anyone had to buy. Getting watermelons sold was not something I could do by just opening my mouth. I took extended leave from my office. I ran all over the state, dealing with distributors and purchasing managers. Words alone were not going to close those deals. I had to treat them to meals and drinks. They knew I was desperate to find buyers for the watermelons. So they not only pushed the price down, they also found ways to squeeze benefits out of me. The timid ones mooched a few meals, took a few bottles of liquor and cartons of cigarettes. The bolder ones openly hinted, or flat out told me, to pay kickbacks. So did I pay, or not? If I did not, they would not take my melons. Every dollar of that came out of my pocket. Then there were tickets and hotel rooms when I traveled to find sales channels. Which part of that did not cost money? Yes, the village watermelons were sold. And yes, the villagers all got paid. But I covered every extra cost. Back then, I regretted it immediately. I told myself I would never help the villagers sell watermelons again. It costs money, strength, time, and patience. It simply was not worth it. But the next spring, the village started preparing to plant watermelons again, and the heavy burden of selling them was dumped on my shoulders once more. Year after year after year. I worked hard, spending my time and energy helping the villagers sell their watermelons. I gave them both results and backbreaking effort. Even a mule at the mill has to be fed, right? So what was wrong with me earning a 3-cent margin? You should not have taken it. As someone from Oakridge Village, you should think of the village as a whole. You should not be counting your own gains and losses. Helping your neighbors sell watermelons and solve their problems is your duty and responsibility. You have no right to set conditions. You took advantage of everyone, then tried to make yourself look noble. How can you be so shameless? Let me ask you this. Where did the money for your car come from? Where did the money for your family's house come from? Your salary should not be enough to afford such a nice car, should it? You got it by bleeding the villagers dry, by feeding off their hard work. If she had not been a woman, I might have hit her right then. This was blatant twisting of the issue. I wasn't some damn saint. Why was I supposed to sacrifice myself for nothing? That is right, Ethan. You should not have taken that money. If the watermelons could not be sold, then there was nothing anyone could do. The villagers would accept their bad luck. But once they were sold, every cent had to be counted. You had no right to take advantage. How can you enjoy yourself on everyone's hard-earned money and still live with your conscience? Mayor Whitaker followed right after her, backing up his daughter. When the other villagers saw that, they all jumped in and started accusing me too. Enough. Stop talking. My father, who had been silent the whole time, suddenly slapped the table and stood up. The room fell silent at once. It was wrong for Ethan to take everyone's money. 3 cents per pound, right? I will pay it back. Anyone who sold watermelons through Ethan over the years, bring me your account books. Whatever the amount is, I will refund every cent. We deserved that money. There is no need to refund it. I panicked. I hurried to stop Dad. Ethan, do not stop me. Our Miller family may not be powerful, but we hold our heads high. We live with dignity. Do the villagers think we took advantage of them? Then we will pay it back, even if we have to sell everything we own. No one needs to gossip behind our backs. Dad shoved me aside and spoke with no room for argument. In that moment, my father's back, bent all morning, straightened again. Being again straighter than I had ever seen it. Fine. I will sell the car later. We will refund the money. Since that is how it is, then I will make myself clear too. From now on, Oakridge Village's watermelons, I, Ethan Miller, won't sell anymore. Whoever has the skill can sell them. I swept my gaze over the villagers present and said it solemnly. Panic flashed across the villagers' faces. They did not want to give me 3 cents. but they were still counting on me to sell their watermelons. I will sell them. Sophie Whitaker stepped forward again. Without you, Ethan Miller, do you think everyone will starve? Do not worry, neighbors. Sophie Whitaker, will say this right here today. If Ethan Miller can sell watermelons, then so can I. From now on, I will sell Oakridge Village's watermelons. I guarantee no one will lose out, and I guarantee I will not take a single cent from anyone. Sophie curled her lip at me in disdain. Then she swore up and down to the villagers. The mayor's daughter has real backbone. She really is a good person. The mayor's daughter still has a conscience. Just for saying that, I support Mayor Whitaker. The villagers changed their tune in unison, all rushing to praise Sophie. Not long before, they had spoken to me the same way. Human nature. Of course, I was not about to steal Sophie's spotlight then, because I knew exactly how big she was talking now, and how painfully reality would humiliate her later. I was not bragging, but Oakridge Village's watermelons really could not be sold by anyone except me, Ethan Miller. Ethan Miller. People who do bad things have to be punished. Your punishment is coming soon. Sophie was leaving with the villagers around her when she suddenly stopped at the doorway. She turned back and looked at me, then said, with loaded meaning. At the time, I did not understand, but soon, I learned what punishment she meant. Once the words were spoken, the refund was certain. That very afternoon, Mayor Whitaker brought people to my house to settle the accounts. I had helped the village sell watermelons for all those years, except for the first year. I had earned the margin in every year after that. I sold my car and took out every dollar I had saved. Mom and Dad emptied out the family's savings too. Only then did we finally scrape the money together. The villagers were all smiles as they took the money, as if they had recovered a family heirloom stolen years ago. After that, our house was no longer packed with visitors like before. When the villagers saw my parents, they would turn their faces away. It was as if speaking to my parents was something shameful. At the same time, the punishment Sophie had mentioned arrived. Someone reported me to the authorities, claiming I had been running a private side business while employed. They said I bought low, sold high, and made huge profits. There was even a signed group complaint to prove the report was true. I did not need to think hard to know Sophie had reported me. As for the group complaint, that had to be the villagers of Oakridge Village. My supervisors at the agency knew I sold watermelons, but they had always turned a blind eye. Put nicely, I was helping the folks back home with their troubles. As for the margin, at most, it counted as pay for my effort. Now that it had been reported up the chain, my supervisors could not protect me. They could only follow the rules. I was called in for a talk, and honestly explained what had happened. That included the fact that I had earned a margin, because my attitude was cooperative, and because I'd refunded the money before the investigation began. They treated me leniently and gave me a formal disciplinary write-up. At our agency, that write-up was basically nothing. Unless some miracle happened, there was little hope of promotion anyway. With or without that formal write-up, my monthly paycheck would not be affected. After the decision came down, my coworkers at the agency even treated me to dinner to celebrate. But I made a decision no one expected. I resigned. I had been unlucky lately. First, losing money. Then, getting reported. But I had also figured out my future. Instead of coasting through life in that office, why not build something of my own? My family's situation had hit rock bottom. We had almost no savings left. As a man, I had to hold this family up. As a son, I had a duty to make sure Mom and Dad were secure in old age. As a child, the thing I hated most was watermelons. I fought desperately to escape them. Yet after growing up, by some twist of fate, I ended up dealing with watermelons again. Now, the goal I set for myself was still watermelons. After 4 years at State Agricultural College, I had enough theory and professional knowledge. Building a future with watermelons would count as putting what I studied to use. My parents' old wish had come true. After all those twists and turns, their son had come full circle and returned to carry on the family trade. I had a plan, and I knew what had to be done. I had a long talk with Mom and Dad about how to do it. They fully supported my idea. While the three of us were quietly making preparations, the whole village was revolving around Sophie. The watermelons were about to ripen, and the villagers were waiting eagerly for Sophie to keep her promise and sell their crop. But they had made 2 mistakes. One was wronging me. The other was trusting Sophie. Sophie Whitaker was spiteful, but she was stupid too. Add arrogance to stupidity, and you get a complete disaster. She had followed me to a few supermarkets, watched how I closed a deal, and naively thought she could do the same. Her father may have been mayor, with influence in Oakridge Village. But outside Oakridge, who knew Mayor Whitaker? And who knew Sophie Whitaker? Besides, after all my years selling watermelons, every relationship had been carefully maintained by me. Many customers bought because they trusted me, Ethan Miller, not the watermelons from Oakridge Village. Watermelons were everywhere, but there was only one Ethan Miller. Sophie went to the state capitol full of confidence, copying my approach as she pitched watermelons to those supermarkets. But they would not even give her the time of day. After pestering them non-stop, she finally met a few purchasing managers. But Sophie could not accept the terms they offered. For the same watermelons, if I negotiated, they would offer 80 cents a pound. But with Sophie, they would only offer 50 cents. It was not because they were bullying her for being a woman. There were rules to this business. Price is a negotiation. Sophie simply did not know how to push the price up, and she only knew how to pitch watermelons to supermarkets. She understood nothing about other sales channels. After running herself in circles for half a month, she ended up securing only one £500 order. £500. A single melon farmer lost more than that during harvest handling. Gradually, the villagers began to doubt whether Sophie could really sell the watermelons. No matter how pretty her promises sounded, they were no substitute for cash in hand. Whenever Sophie showed her face, the villagers chased after her, asking when the watermelons would be sold. Soon. Soon. Any minute, now. Things are starting to look promising. Every time. She could only dodge them with those vague excuses. I could tell she really was trying hard to sell the watermelons. But it was also true that she could not sell them. Whether she was stubbornly hanging on to save face, or truly trying to help the villagers, no one could say. One day, I was about to head to the state capital. The moment I stepped out, I ran into Sophie. Sophie gave me a bright smile and greeted me warmly. Stop, right there. A selfish, shameless man like me, taking dirty money against his conscience, does not deserve a sweet Ethan from Miss Whitaker. I cut Sophie off and stepped around her to leave. Ethan, I know you hate me. I was wrong, okay? Now the watermelons won't sell, and everyone is worried sick. Please, help me. Please. I am begging you. Sophie grabbed my arm and started acting sweet. What does that have to do with me? I shook her off in disgust and asked with a cold laugh. How does it not? You are from Oakridge village. You have a responsibility and an obligation. Sophie dragged out that same moralizing speech again. Shut up. Plenty of people are from Oakridge. Am I the only one? If we are talking responsibility and obligation, then Miss Whitaker and the mayor should be ahead of me. Right. Do not try that moral blackmail on me. Use that time to figure out how to sell the watermelons. Otherwise, the way I look today will be your fate tomorrow. I shoved Sophie aside impatiently and kept walking, but Sophie shamelessly chased after me again. You are not leaving. As the mayor's daughter, I order you to solve Oakridge Village's watermelon problem. Sophie spread her arms to block me and said it with a stern face. You are a college graduate, at least. When your mother gave birth to you, were you born without a brain? The mayor's daughter. Do you think being village mayor makes him some high-ranking official? Who gave you the right to restrict another person's freedom? Who gave you the right to order people around? Was it your father? Call him over. I will ask him myself. Also, my official residency is not in the village. So strictly speaking, I am not an Oakridge villager. So it is not your place to throw your weight around in front of me, Miss Whitaker. I could not help laughing and mocked Sophie a little more. With brains like that, no wonder you spent half a month and only sold £500 of watermelons. Sophie was so furious she could not speak. Weren't you so confident back then? Here is an idea. Why don't you and your father buy up all the village watermelons? That would solve the villagers' problem, and let you keep your promise. 2 birds with 1 stone. I offered Sophie that wicked little suggestion. My family's money does not grow on trees. Sophie realized I was making fun of her. She glared at me and said, Exactly. Your family's money does not grow on trees, so my time and energy just came out of thin air. Now, get out of my way. I have things to do. Keep pestering me, and I will call the police and report you for harassment. I snapped back at Sophie and headed out of the village. Ethan Miller, do not get too smug. Sophie Whitaker can still sell those watermelons. Sophie stomped her foot behind me and shouted, Let me tell you this. If you can sell them, I will damn well take your last name. I flipped her off and said without looking back, Sophie had decided to challenge me. Once again, she made a public declaration in the village. She swore she would sell every watermelon in Oakridge. She really was too stubborn to admit defeat. But empty bravado does not move product. Without sales channels or customers, the only support Sophie could think of was her parents. Yes, her father was the mayor, but a mayor cannot sell watermelons by title alone. Another week dragged by. Who knew how much trouble Mayor Whitaker went through, but he finally managed to sell another 1,000 pounds of watermelons. By then, watermelons were already hitting the market. If they did not sell soon, they would rot in the fields. The villagers started to panic. They no longer dared to stake everything on Sophie alone. House after house went back to selling by the roadside. But Sophie refused to admit defeat and decided to try a different route. She found a few pretty, shapely young women from the village and started selling watermelons by Livestream. Shopping had become a mainstream way to sell things. But it still depended on what you were selling. Fruit already has a short shelf life and spoils easily. Watermelons are even worse. One hard bump, and they are ruined on the spot. But Sophie stubbornly refused to accept reality. She thought a Livestream could make the whole country know Oakridge watermelons. She thought they could sell out overnight. I watched the Livestream a few times. I nearly laughed my head off. At the start, Sophie first led the girls in a dance to draw viewers in. Once the Livestream numbers went up, each girl hugged a watermelon and started praising it. They went on about how good and sweet the melons were. If you do not buy today, you will not get one tomorrow. Place an order for £10,000 and get £500 free. When they were dancing, there were quite a few viewers. At the peak, there were 2,000 or 3,000 people watching. But the moment the watermelons appeared, the viewers vanished. To cater to what the audience wanted, the dance segments grew longer and longer. The girls wore less and less. After several days of live streaming, they had not sold a single watermelon. Because your account violated platform rules and regulations, it has been permanently banned. The live stream equipment and performer costumes were paid for by the village committee. They lost every penny. This time, Sophie was dumbfounded. The villagers were dumbfounded too. That year, watermelons had bumper harvests everywhere. Supply far exceeded demand. The market simply could not absorb them. Hauling melons into town to sell was just as difficult. Some people hauled them out in the morning, only to haul every last one back at night. Competition between melon stands was fierce. Prices kept getting forced lower. Making money was out of the question. It was only a matter of who could lose more. Watermelons, worth 80 cents a pound, were being sold by some for 50 cents. Even then, buyers were not guaranteed. Some vendors even sold them by the piece. $6 each, $10 for two. If ripe watermelons were left unpicked, they could stay in the field for at most another month. Once picked, they would only keep for half a month. Now every watermelon in the village was still in the fields. No one dared pick them. Everyone clung to one last shred of luck, waiting for a miracle. The thing everyone did most each day was hound Sophie. After all, she had sworn up and down that she would sell every watermelon in the village, and would never let the villagers suffer a loss. Everyone was waiting for her to keep that promise. There was only half a month left. If the watermelons in the fields did not sell, they would simply rot. Even though Sophie hated to accept it, she had no choice but to face reality. She had to admit she had talked bigger than her skills could back up. She admitted to the villagers that this year's watermelons could not be sold. At the same time, she tried to calm everyone down. She promised to start earlier next year, and do her best to sell the whole village's crop. But to the villagers, that sounded like pure hot air. Whether next year's crop could sell was next year's problem. What everyone cared about was this year. They had only enjoyed a few good years. Because of one word from you, the mayor's daughter. Everyone had pinned all their hopes on you. Now you say the crop cannot be sold. Are you trying to destroy us? I must have been out of my mind to believe her. A naive little girl. How could she possibly be reliable? No one in the mayor's family has a decent heart. They are all rotten underneath. Sophie. More like disaster. Good for nothing, but making things worse. Even her name sounds unlucky. The rumors and gossip in the village kept growing. All of it was aimed at Sophie. All in all, her glory had lasted barely 1 month. Back then, she wanted to step on me. Now, she had fallen herself. The villagers could be very warm. Whoever made them money, they praised as a good person. But the villagers could also be very cold. Once someone was no longer useful, they could turn on them in a heartbeat. I knew that better than anyone. Sophie's days in the village grew harder and harder. Every day, the villagers mocked her to her face. Behind her back, they sneered at her. It never seemed to end. After 2 days, she could not take it anymore. She used finding work out of town as an excuse and slipped away. She had always been a little girl with no real ability, yet the villagers had treated her like their lifeline. Now Sophie had simply dusted off her hands and left. The mess she left behind could only be cleaned up by the villagers themselves. When it rains, it pours. Sophie had barely left when the National Weather Service issued a warning. The region was about to face a severe cold front. Torrential rain was expected. Because of that severe cold front, our area would see rainfall unlike anything in decades. Watermelons fear water more than anything. Once the melons in the field were soaked, they would be inedible. A man-made mess, made worse by disaster. Oakridge village had fallen into a dead end again. After a quiet month, my house was once again packed with visitors like before. Ethan, please, think of something. The rain is about to come. Once these melons touch water, the village's whole year of work will be wasted. That is right, Ethan. Hurry up and make some calls. Find someone to come take our village's melons any later, and it will be too late. Ethan, this year I bought the best seeds. I used the most expensive fertilizer too. If these do not sell, I will lose everything. A crowd of villagers surrounded me, begging me to help sell their watermelons. Only now did they remember to beg me. Too late. I lowered my head and looked at my unfinished plans. I said nothing. Ethan, you are a grown man. Do not be so petty. The villagers only said a few words about you. Are you really going to hold a grudge against everyone? The past is the past. Right now, the priority is selling the melon. Everyone here is your elder. You should at least give us an answer. They cannot be sold. Ethan, look how this all turned out. We were all fooled by Sophie, that naive little girl. She was the one stirring up trouble. Be the bigger person. Do not hold this against us. This time, take whatever commission you deserve. I absolutely will not object. If you think 3 cents per pound is too little, then make it 4 cents per pound. 5 cents per pound would be fine too. Uncle Sam bowed and scraped, apologizing to me, not even caring that Mayor Whitaker was right there. Yet Uncle Sam openly started blaming Sophie. Back then, his family's melons were the first I sold. When Sophie picked a fight with me, he was also the first to step forward against me. Uncle Sam, you be the bigger person. Please do not make this hard for me. Forget 5 cents per pound. Even if you gave me 50 cents per pound, these melons still could not be sold. I set down the pen and ruler in my hands, and smiled at Uncle Sam as I spoke. Ethan, that is not right. We are all neighbors here. You sold them just fine these past 2 years. These past 2 years. My heart was still warm. Now it has gone cold. Besides, didn't little Miss Whitaker promise to sell all your melons? You should go find her. What is the point of coming to me? I flicked ash from the front of my t-shirt, and reminded them they had come to the wrong person. But Sophie already left. Did she not? The villagers truly have no other option. Ethan, you are the only one in the village with this ability now. You cannot just watch the villagers suffer and do nothing. She's just a young girl who does not know better. But you should know better. Right? Mayor Whitaker was trying to slap another label on me, back when his daughter went after me. I refused to believe he had not been pushing her from behind. He had wanted to use the chance to crush me. When that failed, he started trying to pull me back in. I had seen Mayor Whitaker change sides when it suited him more than enough times already. What is so scary about her leaving? It is not like she is dead. She is your daughter. Are you telling me you cannot find her? Just call her. I glanced at Mayor Whitaker, mocking Mayor Whitaker until his face flushed crimson. He understood I still held the past against him. Ethan, how about this? I will speak for everyone in the village. You handle this year's watermelons too. Whatever commission you take is up to you. All these years, I had run myself ragged selling melons for the village. I thought earning a little money for my labor was only fair. I thought the villagers would understand. Who would have thought that in their eyes? I was pocketing dirty money from everyone without a conscience. Not only was I forced to return every cent, they even filed a signed group complaint against me. My perfectly secure government job was ruined too. I lost money and my job. What was the point? Before I ever helped the village sell watermelons, wasn't everything just fine? How did helping them turn me into their enemy? I had figured it out. These days, being a good person is not easy. Besides, I had already said it that day. Ethan, tell me the truth. Do you not want to sell the village's melons? Or can you not sell them? After being mocked by me, Mayor Whitaker's face darkened with anger. He held back his temper and asked, I do not want to sell them. I said it, flat out. If I helped them again, I'd have to be out of my mind. That whole act of letting the world wrong me, while I never wrong anyone myself. Like in those TV dramas, where someone gets bullied by everyone, then they turn around and say a few nice words, and I am supposed to crawl back and slave away for them. Old Miller. We are all from the same village. You cannot handle things this way. Mayor Whitaker had not expected me to be so blunt, so he could only pin his hopes on my dad. This time, my dad hesitated too. Was he angry inside? Of course, he was, but he had been too nice for his own good his whole life. The one thing he was worst at was saying no. Dad, go inside and get my bag. I still have errands to run later. I sent Dad off on a task, keeping him away from this mess. Sitting there would only make him suffer more. That is enough. Maya, Uncle Sam, Uncle Quinn, and all of you neighbors, do not come to me about the watermelons anymore. I do not have the heart for it, or the strength. I have things to do soon, so I will not keep you here. Please, go home. I showed them the door outright. The villagers left with resentment written all over their faces. Every few steps, they looked back, hoping I would change my mind. Ethan, maybe you should help the villagers. If that rain comes, they will truly be finished. Dad came out from the back room carrying my bag. He said it with a torn expression. He was still too soft-hearted. Dad, have you not suffered enough from last time? Back then, every one of them acted like they wanted to eat us alive. They are ungrateful wolves. I finally understand it clearly. Except for your own family. There must be limits to how good you are to anyone. If a man has no food, give him bread once, and he is grateful. Give him bread again, next meal, and he thanks you. But by the third meal, if you still only give him bread, he will curse you for not serving him a full meal. My son is right. From now on, we will stay out of this mess. Living our own life well matters more than anything. After hearing me out, Dad fell silent for a moment. Then he nodded firmly. That is the right way to think. I am heading to the state capital first. The day after tomorrow, I will bring a truck back for our melons. I slung my bag over my shoulder and headed out. Oakridge Village could not sell its watermelons, but that did not include mine. Our 15 acres were planted with premium watermelons. The yield was lower, but the overall profit was much higher. After spending 2 days in the state capital, I brought a truck back to the village to load the melons. The truck had just parked by the roadside, ready to load, when dozens of people suddenly poured out and surrounded it. Uncle Sam and Uncle Quinn were leading them. Do not load them. Uncle Sam snatched a watermelon from a loader and smashed it on the ground. He shouted in a rage, Uncle Sam, open your eyes and look closely. These are my family's watermelons. Who are you to decide whether they get loaded? I grabbed Uncle Sam by the back of the neck and pushed him down. I made him look at the melon he had smashed. I do not care. If our melons cannot be sold, then yours will not be sold either. Uncle Sam struggled and straightened up. He glared and roared. Your family will not sell either. Smash all his watermelons. The other villagers started shouting too. In that moment, the ugliness buried in their bones was laid bare. If they were suffering, they did not want anyone else to have it easy. But they never reflected on why they were suffering in the first place. Who dares? The moment he heard they wanted to smash our watermelons, my dad panicked. He spread his arms and stood guard in front of the melon field. Dad, it is fine. Let them smash them. They can smash as many as they want. Get ready to call the police. Tell them there is unlawful assembly and public disturbance, plus destruction of private property. Anyway, all these melons are under contract. For every one they damage, they will pay for one. No one is getting away. After saying that, I took out my phone and started recording. Go on, smash them. Why did you stop? You were so tough a second ago. Uncle Sam, Uncle Quinn, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and do it. Smash them, then pay me. You might even get a few days of free jail food. What a great deal. I held up my phone and swept it around the crowd. As I spoke, I recorded every villager's face. No one dared move. They were jealous, truly jealous, and their envy was real too. But once they knew the price, they could only swallow their anger. After a half-minute standoff, that crowd of villagers had no choice but to back away. Uncle Sam, do not run off so fast. You think you can smash my melon for free? That was a golden pixie watermelon. Market price is $8 a pound. That melon was at least 10 pounds. $80. Pay up. Pay up. I grabbed Uncle Sam as he tried to slip away. I made him pay compensation. In the old days, as neighbors from the same village, forget smashing one melon. Even if someone carried off a few, I would not have made a fuss. But today, Dad was furious. He stood there, without a word, watching me force Uncle Sam to pay. In the end, Uncle Sam obediently handed over $80. Then he slunk away in disgrace. Coward. I spat. I shouted the insult at Uncle Sam's back. The old man stumbled and nearly pitched headfirst into the ditch. As luck would have it, as soon as our truckload was delivered in the state capital, rain started falling. The rain grew heavier and heavier. It poured for 4 or 5 days straight. The fields were flooded with nearly 2 feet of standing water. All the watermelons were submerged, except for my family. Every household in Oakridge village took a total loss. Watching the villagers pull long, miserable faces, I would not say I felt pleased, but I did not feel a shred of sympathy either. They praised me while I fed them, then threw the bowl back in my face. That is what I call karma. Once the rain stopped, and the water drained from the fields, I got busy too. I went into town to buy materials, then hired workers to come back and build greenhouses. Oakridge village had coasted for too many years. So easy that the villagers had grown lazy. All they knew was planting in spring, watering and fertilizing now and then picking the melons in summer, and waiting for me to sell them for cash. From an agricultural science perspective, planting only one melon crop a year on land this good was an absolute waste. As luck would have it, the moment that truckload of watermelons reached Mr. Franklin, it started raining. The rain grew heavier and heavier. It did not stop for days. The standing water in the fields kept rising. Every melon was flooded, except for my family. The whole village took a total loss. Once the water drained from the fields, I got busy. Early season watermelons and greenhouse-grown watermelons. I redesigned my family's planting schedule. I changed 1 harvest a year into 4, because our land was limited. If I wanted to raise profits, I had to follow a premium market strategy. I also brought in several rare new watermelon varieties. I cultivated and planted them by season, especially in winter and spring. Greenhouse-grown watermelons sold at frighteningly high prices. Naturally, I earned even more. I also devoted myself to studying the craft, testing and researching non-stop, while keeping quality steady. I raised the yields by 50% in just 1 year. My family's watermelon income matched our previous 10 years combined. Through watermelons, my family truly built a prosperous life. Plenty of villagers were jealous. Plenty were envious. And plenty made snide remarks. Some even sabotaged me on purpose, sneaking into my greenhouses at midnight to pull up seedlings. But after the last time the villagers blocked my family from loading our melon, I had learned to be careful. I had installed security cameras in the greenhouses. When the seedlings were pulled up, I did not go argue with those people. I took the footage straight to the police. People in this village look down on you when you are poor and resent you when you are rich. If they dared pull up my seedlings this time, next time, they would dare set a fire. If I did not hit them hard once and make the lessons stick, they would only cause bigger trouble later. The police had barely taken them in when I hired an expensive attorney and pursued legal action. Those troublemaking bastards were all detained. They also had to compensate me, and it was the maximum damages allowed. They had only pulled up just over 100 seedlings, but the price they paid was something they would probably never forget. Mayor Whitaker came to my house to plead for them. He wanted me to show leniency. I did not even let him through the door. After that, no one dared cause trouble again. Oakridge Village split into two sides, my family and everyone else. No villager had anything to do with my family anymore. But so what? We still planted melons. We still ate our meals. Our life was not affected in the slightest. If anything, it became much quieter. Some villagers copied us and started building greenhouses, trying to grow year-round watermelons. The problem was, once the melons were grown, they still had nowhere to sell them. After a few families tried it, they gave up on their own. By contrast, my family's watermelon business kept getting better. Demand kept growing. I had no choice. I had to rent several thousand acres from neighboring villages and expand production. As for Oakridge Village land, I thought it was cursed. The statewide winter and spring watermelon market was mine to dominate. At the risk of sounding arrogant, if I, Ethan Miller, stopped growing melons for 1 year, more than half the supermarkets in the state would have no watermelons to sell in winter and spring. Oakridge Village, on the other hand, stayed exactly the same. The villagers planted watermelons every year, yet every year they worried about being unable to sell them. Within a few years, the villagers could not hold on anymore. Thousands of acres of melon fields grew more and more desolate. The villagers stopped tending them properly. Both yield and quality fell. Gradually, Oakridge Village watermelons became a thing of the past. Harvest watermelons took their place. As the business grew, and I had money in hand, our quality of life rose with it. My family's days grew more prosperous. We tore down the old house and rebuilt it. Rock gardens, ponds, and landscaped grounds surrounded a 4-story villa. At first glance, it looked like an estate in a scenic resort. Because I often visited the State Agricultural Research Institute, I eventually started dating a female researcher named Lily Carter. Lily was beautiful and kind, hard-working, and resilient. Most importantly, she supported my dream of building a career through watermelons. After 2 years of quietly dating, we decided to get married. There was a little episode behind that, too. After Lily and I made things official, I took her back to the village to meet my parents. But as soon as we walked in, Mayor Whitaker was sitting in the living room. He was waving his arms around and talking up a storm. When he saw Lily behind me, Mayor Whitaker shut up at once. After standing there stunned for a while, he asked me, "Ethan, who is this woman?" "Dad. Mom, this is the person I told you about. My girlfriend, Lily Carter." I ignored Mayor Whitaker and introduced Lily to my parents. What? What? You have a girlfriend? Why didn't you tell me? Before my parents could say a word, "Mayor!" Whitaker cried out again. "Major, aren't you overstepping a bit? Do I need to apply for your approval before I get a girlfriend?" I snapped back at Mayor Whitaker, annoyed. No. Go ahead. Talk among yourselves." Mayor Whitaker laughed awkwardly and slunk away. Only later did I find out. Mayor Whitaker had come to my house to push me into marrying his daughter, Sophie Whitaker. He even promised to approve a homestead plot in the village for us to build on. On top of that, he said we could farm his family's 20 acres of melon fields. But my official residency was not in the village anymore. Even if I got that homestead plot and built a skyscraper on it, it would still belong to Sophie. As for those 20 acres of melon fields, that would just be doing all the work for Mayor Whitaker's benefit. His little scheme was obvious from a mile away. Besides, with Sophie's character and intelligence, I would have to be blind to marry her. Because of rural custom, Lily Carter and I held our wedding in Oakridge Village. On our wedding day, the whole village showed up. These days, for village weddings and funerals, the cash gift usually starts at $200, but they seem to have agreed in advance. Everyone gave 20, and that was 20 per household. They brought the whole family along, 7 or 8 people at least, and sometimes more than a dozen. They were one step away from bringing the dog too. They put $20 in the gift envelope, then sat down and started eating. They drank like mad, ate like mad, and smoked like mad, from the start of the banquet to the end. I did not hear a single congratulations. When they left, they ate their fill and carried off whatever they could. More than half the bowls, basins, and plates on the tables disappeared. Even the hired chef was shocked during cleanup. He asked me, "Is this village really that poor?" It was not poverty. It was jealousy. Whatever. It was only one meal. I could afford it. I treated it like feeding beggars just to get rid of them. After the wedding, Lily simply resigned from her job. She threw herself into growing watermelons with me. Mom and Dad had a much easier life after that. Every day, they tended flowers and fed the fish, living at ease. The bigger my business grew, and the better it became, the more the people of Oakridge Village regretted it. All because of those 3 cents per pound. Their watermelons rotted in the fields. All because of those 3 cents per pound. They never lived well again. If they were given another chance, would they still believe Sophie Whitaker's troublemaking? Of course not. But if they were given another chance, would they still resent me over those 3 cents per pound? Of course they would. That is human nature. As my career took off, The name Ethan Miller earned the title of the Watermelon King. I had both money and fame, but I did not let success go to my head. My past had taught me that growth is what really matters. The one who starts first does not always win, and those who start late have even less reason to stop. The watermelons had given me a 9-figure net worth, enough money to last several lifetimes without doing a thing. The place my wife and I visited most often was still the Melon greenhouse. Sometimes, when you devote yourself completely to one thing, it slowly becomes a passion. After years of relentless work with my wife, we finally bred the harvest no. 1. Harvest no. 2. And harvest no. 3 watermelons. They not only broke the old rule that premium watermelons could not be high, but also greatly lowered the price of off-season watermelons. Some people laughed and called me stupid. They said I could clearly make money hand over fist with Harvest Watermelon Park. Yet I insisted on breeding the Harvest series, with its high yields and lower prices. Scarcity drives value. If huge volumes of watermelons flood the market, how can they still sell at high prices? How can anyone still make big money? Wasn't I just asking for trouble? Cutting off my own livelihood? They laugh because they think I'm crazy. I laugh because they don't see the bigger picture. Those people could only see the profits right in front of them. They did not understand what a real market is. A market does not belong to any one person. A monopoly lasts even less. If the watermelon market ever came down to my word alone, there would be only one outcome. I would soon be replaced by someone coming up behind me. So if I wanted true stability and long-term success, I had to expand the market. When market supply and consumer purchasing power stay in balance, that is, healthy market growth, I did not mind slimmer profits, because that was the only way to drive market demand, and let more watermelons reach buyers, instead of sitting on. Facts proved my judgment was right. The moment the Harvest series hit the market, it sent a shockwave through the old watermelon industry. Sky-high priced watermelons and luxury melons were wiped out overnight. Store shelves filled with more affordable Harvest watermelons. Watermelons were no longer tied to one season, nor are they fruit people craved in certain months, but could not bring themselves to buy. The original 2,000 acres were no longer enough. Once again, watermelon production could not keep up with demand. To meet market demand, Harvest Watermelon Park, with strong support from the local government, began expanding into the surrounding area. Its total area reached 20,000 acres. Harvest Watermelon Park became a standout local company. The watermelons we grew not only supplied the domestic market, but were exported to more than 100 countries. I, too, went from being a businessman to becoming an entrepreneur. Several highly influential media outlets jointly arranged an interview. They sent reporters to Harvest Watermelon Park to interview me. Mr. Miller. Harvest Watermelon Park is the first of its kind in the country, with the largest acreage and the most mature growing technology. It is fair to say you have achieved tremendous success in your career. At this Global Agricultural Expo, your Harvest Series and Sweetheart Series both won gold awards. You personally were also honored as a modern agriculture pioneer, most influential entrepreneur, and agricultural research innovator. How do you feel about that? The reporters raised their microphones and questioned me. Thank you, friends from the press, for your praise. The awards from this Agricultural Expo, as well as the honors granted to me personally, make me feel deeply honored. They are both the public's recognition of Harvest Watermelon Park, and a spur for me to keep improving. I will keep pushing forward and strive for even better results. I answered with a smile. Mr. Miller, in today's watermelon industry, your name is known by everyone. Harvest Watermelon Park is also the leading local industry. It is not only a major taxpayer, but has also created jobs for tens of thousands of people, according to the relevant statistics. You are also actively involved in charity, across all kinds of donations. Your donations have already topped 200 million. Do you see charity as a form of marketing? Another reporter asked. The customer base of Harvest Watermelon Park is everyone. Because I had the support of ordinary people, I was able to achieve what I have today. What comes from the people should go back to the people. I would not call that marketing. If you insist on calling it something, then it is only a kind of proof. Proof that I, Ethan Miller, am not rich, but heartless. When I make money, I know how to give back to society. My answer drew a wave of laughter. Mr. Miller, we hear you are self-made. You grew from an original 15 acres of watermelon fields into the scale you have today. What qualities do you think a mature and successful entrepreneur should have? Another reporter asked. Focus, hard work, integrity, and the ability to be grateful. I thought for a moment before answering. Mr. Miller, there are rumors outside that your hometown is Oakridge Village, and that your first watermelon business began there. Oakridge Village was once a very famous watermelon growing area. So why, in Harvest Watermelon Park, is there no trace of Oakridge Village? Asked the same reporter who had questioned whether my charity was marketing. The rumors are true. If any of you are interested, you can come with me to Oakridge Village and see for yourselves. I nodded. I invited the reporters to visit Oakridge Village. A long convoy of interview vehicles rumbled toward Oakridge Village. Now, my family's original 15 acres were no longer used for production. Instead, they had been rebuilt into a dedicated test farm. My wife and I spent most of our time here breeding and researching. Every new watermelon variety at Harvest Watermelon Park was bred right here. First, I showed the reporters around the test farm. Then I took everyone to look at the other villagers' melon fields. Today's Oakridge village no longer looked like a watermelon growing area at all. Across thousands of acres of prime watermelon fields, not a single person could be seen. Melon vines and weeds tangled wildly together. Oakridge village, once the most famous watermelon growing area in the state, had become a thing of the past. What replaced it was harvest watermelons, dozens of cameras, over 100 reporters. A spectacle on that scale had never appeared in Oakridge village before. From the moment we entered the village, villagers kept coming out of their homes to watch. They stared at us curiously. More and more people gathered. Mr. Miller, are you saying the villagers of Oakridge have become too lazy? Farming is already time-consuming, back-breaking work, without a hard-working nature. Is that why they aren't qualified to join Harvest Watermelon Park? After seeing how desolate Oakridge village had become, one reporter began guessing the answer to the earlier question. No. The villages here are hard-working enough. At least, they used to be. I grew up here. I have deep feelings for this land. Maybe you are wondering, if I care about it so much, why did I not bring Oakridge village along with me? There is actually a little story behind that. So I told them the story sparked by those 3 cents per pound. After hearing it, the reporters suddenly understood. One by one, they fell into thought. For a while, no one asked another question. You folks are reporters from the big TV station, right? Mayor Whitaker shamelessly pushed his way in. And you are? One reporter asked curiously. I am the mayor here. The name is Whitaker. Mayor Whitaker introduced himself, then leaned into the camera, eager to get his face on screen. Oh, so you are the mayor. A trace of amusement appeared in the reporter's eyes. You folks are from the big TV station interviewing Ethan Miller, right? Our village watermelons are no worse than his. Help promote ours too, will you? Mayor Whitaker pulled out a pack of cigarettes and offered one to the reporter with a fawning smile. So, Mayor, what you mean is, you want us to help you sell watermelons? The reporter waved him off, refusing Mayor Whitaker's cigarette, and asked with a smile. Yes, exactly. We will pay you a commission. Mayor Whitaker quickly nodded. But I would worry that any commission I took today would be clawed back from me tomorrow, the reporter said with a cold laugh. Mayor Whitaker's face changed at once. Mr. Mayor, I heard Ethan Miller used to sell all the watermelons for Oakridge village. He gave his time, his labor, and his own money to promote them and find sales channels for you. Yet just because he made a 3 cent per pound margin, you accused him of having no conscience and making dirty money. You've even forced him to return every cent. When you said those things, did you ever think that, without Ethan Miller, you might not have sold a single pound of watermelon? Ethan Miller helped you sell watermelons that would have rotted in the fields, but he became your enemy with behavior like that. Who would ever dare help you again, Mr. Mayor, if I told you that under today's watermelon sales practices, sales reps get all related expenses reimbursed, and also charge a 20% commission? Would you still call Ethan Miller's 3 cents exploitation? No wonder he is an entrepreneur now, while you people are still stuck where you started. No matter what you do, you have to learn basic decency first. Oakridge village once had the chance to take off with him, but you burned your own bridge. We still have an interview to conduct, so please step back. Do not interfere with our work. From that story, the reporter felt the helplessness and injustice I had suffered back then. He gave Mayor Whitaker a blunt scolding without sparing his pride. For once, someone stood up for what was fair on my behalf. Honestly, I had long since made peace with that incident. Even so, the reporter's words still warmed my heart. Aside from Oakridge village, no one thought I had done anything wrong. Most people in this world still carry a sense of justice in their hearts. After the media interview aired, Oakridge village became briefly famous too, but only for its shame. That day, my wife and I were at the test farm, as usual. Crimson No. One was about to bear fruit. It was a new variety my wife and I had bred together. It broke completely from the usual green and black rind colors. From rind to flesh, it was red all the way through. For days, my wife and I had eaten and slept at the test farm. Also, we could witness the birth of Crimson No. One with our own eyes. Outside the test farm, a dense rush of footsteps drew closer. Even the ground seemed to tremble. I walked out and saw Mayor Whitaker leading the way. More than 1,000 villagers from Oakridge had come. Ethan, we are here to apologize to you. Just as I was trying to guess why they had come, Mayor Whitaker suddenly bowed deeply to me and spoke first. The others followed, and bowed to me as well. I had not expected the whole village to come apologize to me. For a moment, I did not know what to say. Ethan, this is the money the villagers forced you to return back then. Today, we are giving it back to you. These past few days, we have thought it over. You should have taken this money. You earned it. The ones who truly had no conscience were us. You never wronged Oakridge village. Oakridge village wronged you. Ethan, do not take this the wrong way. We have no other motive. We just want to give ourselves some peace of mind. As Mayor Whitaker spoke, 2 men carried a box forward. When they opened it, it was filled with cash. Had they finally grown a conscience? I looked at them in confusion. Ethan, You can rest easy. From now on, just focus on building your business. We will never make trouble for you again. We wish you smooth sailing. Mayor Whitaker clasped his hands to me in farewell. Then he turned and left. I smiled faintly. I hoped they had truly learned from their mistake.